From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief digital strategist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Reed Hansen with me, and we're going to talk all about home service-based businesses. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. The SDM show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. Today I've got Reed Hansen with me, and we're going to talk all about service-based businesses. Hey Reed, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. And this is a little bit of a different one. And so we're going to talk about service-based businesses. So first of all, how did you get into dealing with service-based businesses? That's a question I always like to start with. It's always interesting to hear people's stories. So what's yours?
Well, I think, as a part of designing your ideal customer, a lot of it is who you want to work with, but the other part is who wants to work with you. And
Yeah.
so I'd say part of it was by design, and part of it was by their feedback and them coming to us. So
Mm.
I've talked, there are some industries that are very mature in the digital space and others that are less mature. We we have a big group of photography studios. Those are
Yeah.
fun. I put them in one group, and then
Your
but
wife's a photographer. Your wife's a photographer, isn't she too?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. So we've
Yeah.
I've got a lot of miles in on those roads in the photography industry. But we have also found that a lot of these home services businesses have great needs. There's
Mhm.
a variety. Some are quite sophisticated, do a high volume of output in terms of like cold emailing and cold calling.
Yep.
Others simply are the technicians leading the business like a plumber, and he's got his hands down a drain and his phone rings and he needs an automation to respond and process the call so he doesn't lose the lead. So what I have found though is that the home services industries, they have a lot of technical skills, but not necessarily the marketing experience or chops to can maintain a continual pipeline of bookings.
No,
And
I would agree with you. I have a good friend of mine who lives across the street, old high school friend, and he runs a painting business. And he's been a painter, professional painter for years, ever since I've known him. And what he'll tell you is it's hard for him to balance his business and then the admin side of the business. So we're talking the lead gen side, the answering phone call side, the sending out quotes side, that side of it. He finds it's hard. And fortunately, he's at a stage in his life where all his kids are over 20. So they're self sufficient, thank God. But, that impacts. And I hear it time and time again. Oh, I called a contractor and it took me 4 days for them to get back to me because they're busy. And I hate to say it, what people in home service based businesses haven't realized is something I stress, and I'm sure you stress is you don't have time to do it. Get somebody to do it for you.
100%. And, it really is a question of immediacy in response. So, there's a whole portfolio of concerns that they have from a marketing standpoint, but they need to act quickly. I've had the experience myself as a customer of various home service. I moved into a 100-year-old house, and it seems like we're on the phone with some contractor or another every day.
Mhm.
And um, but I often have to call multiple contractors to get somebody to pick up the phone or to give me a satisfactory time frame that they can provide an estimate or a delivery. And um, so so automation is critical for these professionals because they can't both sell and service the client. Um, they they will need to either have staff, which is expensive, costly,
Mhm.
that are dialing out, or they need to have good mechanisms, good technology that can funnel leads and provide the information with the immediacy that they need.
No question. And I think what you just said was a piece of word. And I think it applies to even more than home service businesses. And you said automation is critical. And I so heartily agree with that. So basically, what that means is if somebody goes to a website and they fill in a contact form, where do 90% of all contact forms end up? Two places. One, in spam, right? Like, because their website's not set up properly. So, that's problem number one. Problem number two is it takes days to get back. It drives me insane as a customer when the website says, we'll get back to you in 48 hours, and you call and they say, oh, it's going to be 5 days. No, 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 no. That's not the way to run business. So why not do smart things like automate that process? For example, send back first of all, a nice email saying, thanks for getting in touch with us. We'll get back to you. And by the way, while you're waiting, here's some resources you can check out the company, not just thank you. That's one of my biggest peeves is people say thank you and they don't take advantage now that they've got your attention or in your inbox. Problem number one. And then set up your automation sequence to set up follow-ups depending on what they're looking for. So if they're looking for, say this is a contracting company and they're looking for plumbing, maybe you want to send them a couple emails every 2 or 3 days saying what kind of plumbing services that you offer and tag them appropriate. So one thing you got to do is learn to segment your potential clients, right?
Absolutely. There's, as you said, there's a lot of different ways that people find a business or approach you.
Yep.
But if they have gone to the effort of filling out a form and submitting, which indicates some interest, but also some effort, that is a very valuable lead. There are other
Mhm.
leads that are much more passive, that are captured because they clicked an ad, maybe while they were browsing a social media platform.
Yep.
Much lower intent on those. If on your form you can put other questions that further qualify, like
Mhm.
are you the homeowner or are you a
Yeah.
renter, something like that, or uh, some demographic information. That's a great point to filter rather than wait for the call to qualify.
No, I agree. And get some kind of automation in there. So
Yeah.
I mean, any really good email automation platforms, or a couple of them. One comes to mind is Keep, which used to be Infusionsoft, which a lot of people either like or hate because it's complex. You can do it with Get Response. There's a couple, if you're running a WordPress website, there's a couple built-in CRMs that will run right inside WordPress. Groundhog comes to mind. I know the founder quite well. Interesting story. The founder of Groundhog, Adrian Toby, his father was the number one Infusionsoft trainer in Canada at one time, believe it or not, and one of my
Oh,
mentors in the
okay.
business. So yeah, it's just an interesting story. But the whole thing is with all this stuff, and I don't care if you're using Get Response, using Keep, using Groundhog, what you got to do is sit down like somebody like yourself and develop a system. How are you
Yeah.
going to tag stuff? How's your sequence going to do? Because I'm going to tell you, business owners are generally not good marketers. I will tell you that every day to Sunday. And I will tell you, most marketers aren't good logical people. So, marketers, I come from originally a programming technical background. So, I'm in a bit of a different spot than most people. But most marketers, when you throw conditional logic in a sales funnel at them, they kind of look and say, it takes a lot for them to grasp.
Absolutely. And like you said, it is critical. So there's so many decisions you make in an automation. And
Yep.
one is timing, one is the actual message that is sent. And
Hmm.
and others are, what are the follow-up steps? Is there logic built in the automation that
Yep.
takes somebody down a different route based on the response, which should be the case. And what are those factors? The and then do you have a mechanism for analyzing where there are drop-offs in different parts of your automation?
Yep.
Your inbound pipeline is something you should be thinking about a lot and tweaking and refining. And here's an interesting case study from my business school years. This is 15 years ago. We had a case study about it was a discussion-based case study, but it was a large retailer. I believe it was Walmart. They were trying to decide on the frequency of advertising emails that they would send to people in their database. And
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
and the so take us for what it's worth in 2010-ish, because I'm sure conditions have changed. But at that point, they intuited, they thought, well, let's do a couple emails a week, and let's see if that get provides the highest response. And they were able to track that, we could maybe add in more, and they got up to where they're sending an advertising email with a coupon every day, and that was actually
Yeah.
producing the best results. But then somebody said, well, why don't we just try something else? We'll just jump way ahead. And they were having the most success sending up to 12 discount emails a day. And like that was actually the most effective because that was a case of observing the data rather than
Mhm.
intuiting, like 15, that's too many. That's too, like that's
I
bad.
go I go nuts. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, Walmart's big in Canada. I think you know
Right.
that.
Right.
And I'm a Walmart Photo Center user, and they do send daily emails around the photo center. And of course, at the time of this record, Mother's Day is coming up.
Mhm.
So there's more and more specials out there because Mother's Day is coming. Do you have to use them for Mother's Day? No. But the point I'm making is, and they've got a special a day right now, and most of them expire in 24 or 48 hours. So what they're doing really well is they're throwing urgency in there too, which also helps with specials. Having open-ended specials as any business, even a home-based business, is a
Mhm.
bad idea. Put some urgency in, hold some purse strings, and say, hey, if you don't jump on this now, it's gonna go away.
Yeah. No, and that's an excellent point. The discounts and promotions as a service provider are not as effective as for product-based business, at least for the health of your business, because you have limited you can't be in two places at once. When your
Yeah.
booking calendar is full, you can't book any more business. So immediacy, urgency, and then some of the other factors that we could talk about would be the trust that you are
Mhm.
able to both convey at the beginning of the process and rightfully earn and show off through testimonials and reviews at the end of the process.
Yeah.
Um, so
And that doesn't mean, by the way, that doesn't mean all positive reviews,
right.
because you and I both know that you can do, as a business owner, everything right and give the client everything a contract should agree to. And some clients just can't be happy.
Yeah.
And then we've got the whole issue in the review game about the bots, the personal attacks, the competitors, the fake reviews. They still go on. I get an email as an agency owner every day saying, would you like me to write 10 reviews for you? No, 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 no. And and people argue, and I know I've gone through as a business, even myself, and I'm a B2B business.
Mhm.
I've gone through bad reviews, but the key with reviews is answer them, because you're not going to make everybody happy. You're not gonna. I had one review, a guy, the work got done great. He didn't follow what was in his contract, and he had the nerve to write me a nasty review. Well, fine. So I answered it. So take the time as a business owner and deal with the bad reviews. That will build trust more than dealing with a positive review.
100%. And I think, when you see a business that has a 5.0 on
Yep.
Google, that's probably an indication that they don't have very many reviews, or that they're not getting an accurate
Hmm.
like survey of their actual users. When you start seeing, in the, excuse me, 4.5 and above, and you see like a very engaged business owner,
Yep.
those are the kinds of businesses you should work with. Um, but reviews are another thing that you can, or the requests for reviews and the prompts for reviews, that's another thing you can automate. You
Yep.
can, at parts in the sales process, um, you know, it, depending on our client, we either, once service is complete, we either ask for it immediately, or do kind of a staggered, few days later. But we recommend that for every business, that for every sale you ask for a review. You can get in some of the mechanics of, there are platforms where you can get an assessment before it goes to print, so to speak. You can get
Yep.
if the bad reviews, you can address them directly rather than have to wait until they hit Google or Facebook.
Hmm.
But I think, to your point, Rob, the most important thing is that you're engaged, and that, if you hear something negative, like, you're actively addressing it.
Sorry. Or better still, send out after they've done the work a quick email to obtain a net promoter score. Because I think that's really important. That's a quick gauge. It takes the client 30 seconds and say, here it is. Now, one of the tricks I love with reviews, and I think I picked this up off of Michael, oh, what's his name? Seisner. He runs Social Media World and all of that
Okay.
stuff. Michael was talking about dentists, but it applies to any business, even a service-based business. I've worked with a couple. Is if the client really likes the job, have them shoot you a quick 20-second iPhone video with you standing in front of the work. And
Yeah.
then take that video and post it. And don't fancy it up. Literally take it as raw video. And the reason I say don't fancy it up is because if you fancy it up, then somebody says, oh, what did you do to the video? So don't do that. Just post it on your YouTube channel, embed it, share it, and just be done with it. And that alone, as a review mechanism, will generate reviews. Imagine going into a living room and you're thinking about, oh, you want to have your hardwood floors done, right? And you see somebody's hardwood real quickly, and they're saying how wonderful the contractor was in that. They're going to go by,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and think of the value of those kinds of videos. A home service provider, say, they're doing your hardwood floors, they've got a video of them standing with a happy homeowner in a home. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, new customers, they can really envision, this is a safe person to let in my home. And
Mhm.
it takes it a further step. That's something that, like, as a marketing agency, I just can't do. I can't, I'm very rarely face to face with my clients, other than
Me either.
on Zoom. And so home services businesses should consider that a major advantage, that
Yeah.
can boost their marketing.
Yeah. And the other thing we were talking about is you mentioned booking and all this.
Yeah.
And I think booking is the ideal opportunity for automation. So I'll give you an example. And this is kind of home based, but it's not.
Mhm.
My best friend bought a toilet at Home Depot. Yes, they're in Canada too, by the way. So yeah, and Home Depot has a service where they will send their contracted installers to install your toilet. You pay for it when you purchase the toilet, and then they bring it. And we said to them, how do we book this? And they said, oh, don't worry about it. We'll send you a link today. So you click on the link, it gives you some options. You book the time in the slot that they need. What I'm suggesting is, especially these contractors who are busy, 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 automate your booking process. Then you don't have to spend 5 hours on the client to book a 1 hour appointment. Just find the way to do it. And there's enough cheap booking packages out there that this shouldn't even cost you a fortune, to be honest.
Absolutely, and that can be combined with automation opportunity we talked about earlier.
Yep.
This can be embedded in a link, and if you miss a call, then the link to a calendar could be a booking for here's when I'll call you back, or here's if you're ready, here's when to book my service calendar, and
Yeah.
actually book the appointment. So it it's critical to have an online calendaring system that obviously matches the your real availability, and and to make that super simple. I think people just have that expectation that they do a lot of purchasing on these big retailer sites, and they have that same
Amazon.
expectation for local vendors.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I agree. Um, Kind of moving on. We're talking home service businesses. What do you think of Yelp as a platform? Have to go there.
Uh, well, I'm not as big on Yelp as some of the others. I
Okay.
Yelp Yelp tends to, well, for instance, when you're working with these review companies, and and I say that as like Google and Facebook as the two big ones I think of. Yelp is
Yep.
Yelp is valuable as well, but um, I do feel that Google is more pervasive in the kind of searching that people do more frequently. Google actually has the ability to promote their own review engine more so than Yelp. But Yelp likes to insert itself into into like the booking process with some automated bots in some occasions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it I personally don't want to recommend putting a lot of effort into Yelp.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fair.
that's my 2 cents. But I'm definitely open to other other perspectives.
So if you're looking at a platform, I know in Canada we have a
Yeah.
platform called Homestars, which is,
Oh, okay.
it's one of those contractors. I don't know if you have it in the States.
Mhm.
Where would you look at platforms like that, or would you third-party platforms, or would
Well,
you
if
look somewhere else?
my primary focus, we have hybrid sites that are
Yeah.
reviews but can be gated. Like tell me if Angie's List, is that very pervasive in Canada? Um,
Yeah, I know Angie's List well, but it's not always used. But my listeners are all over the world, so
okay.
go with it. Yeah.
So Angie's List, for example, is gated. This
Yeah.
small subscription, just a few dollars a month, I believe, for to join, and you get high recommendations, and then you ask for services on there. You put an inquiry out, and these companies who have also subscribed to Angie's, they receive leads that they've paid for,
Yep.
and so that's an opportunity potentially to, from a consumer standpoint, work with well-reviewed businesses, and from a business standpoint to have a steady source of leads. But my 2 cents is that does push you into the very competitive speed and price metrics, and
Yeah.
because you're going to, if you go that route, you're going to get vendors that try to race to the bottom on pricing, and maybe cut some corners on service. And then conversely, that you're going to have to do that as a vendor if you're taking Angie's leads. And again, I would point people to the Facebook and Google
Yep.
primarily for in terms of effort and in terms of developing those business presences. So the
Mhm.
Google My Business and Facebook business page. I would start there, and when you're very mature there and getting, you've got a large number of leads or large number of reviews and a large following on those, then you may want to branch out.
Yep. You mentioned A Race to the Bottom. So one of my favorite books out there is a book called The Inside Advantage. Don't know if you know it. It's written by Robert Bloom, was written in 2009, big red hardcover. And what Robert talks about, one of his premises in his book is don't fight to race to the bottom unless you're a dollar store chain, because that's a recipe for business disaster. and distinguish your business and what makes you different than your competitors, and don't go down that rabbit hole.
Well, I would agree with that. And so that will require you to develop a few things. So both outcomes-based marketing and your ability to tell stories. So if
Yes.
you're able to tell uh, whether it's in print or your other messaging, that you can take somebody from a problem state to a very happy state through the vehicle of your services. So they were crawling with termites, and but we were able to come quickly, and though they were very concerned and losing sleep at night and worried about the huge expense, we were able to allay those fears and resolve it in under
Mm-hmm.
X days. And they those kinds of stories, as a service-based provider, that helps establish authority and trust.
Yeah.
Again, a product business doesn't quite get that opportunity. Um, and so being able to refine those skills, have your customers create those testimonials, those videos, and they inevitably will tell a story if they like you.
Yeah.
That comes naturally. They lived it. But if you're able to connect those dots in a way that they were at the very bottom, and then they rose to the top because of what we were able to help them with, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And while you're telling stories, tell a couple things. One of the things that started off this podcast was asking you how you got into the business. That's important.
Yeah.
Tell your founder story. I have a good friend of mine who's a regular on the show, Todd Jones, and he writes founder stories. Tell your founder story. People want to hear your story, why you got in. And one of the stories I always tell, and I don't know if I shared this with you, but I will, and regular listeners of this podcast know it, I was never going to be a marketer. I took a marketing course back in college in the 80s, and my marketing professor came in his class, put her feet up on the desk, big boots and all, and looked at us and said, "I'm only here because I want my summers off." I said, "Great. Tell me when the exams are. I'll be here for tests only, and you don't have to see me the rest of the term." And right then and there, I swore I'd get through the class and never be in marketing. And what have I done? I've run a digital agency for
Yeah, run a
15
digital
years.
agency.
But stories like that, and the reason I put it out there, it's just compelling. They tell your story. They tell what makes you, they tell what makes you tick. Because what you're doing is you're building connection and trust. And businesses and individuals work with people they like and trust because there's so many offerings out
Absolutely. And that helps pricing not become the issue, because
there.
um, if you provide a great experience, they'll be frightened uh, to go with somebody else and not have that great experience.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
so you, just by the great job you do, and maybe the surprise or wow factor that you can offer, uh, that will ensure repeat business, referrals, um, and great reviews.
Yeah. Now, the other thing service-based businesses don't do well after reviews is follow up to get repeat business. We
Yeah.
all know that. And this is where developing the right automation sequences, because they're going to say, "Oh, I don't have time." That's a missed opportunity. Missed. Because what happens is the cost of acquiring a new customer takes more effort and time and money than an existing customer. So I think they should spend the time following up, and they would all argue and say, "Well, not the time to do it." So automate it.
Yeah, automate it. Exactly. And that is 100% a process that we would recommend for everyone. You have a database of your former customers, and those former customers are both potential future customers and potential uh, outlets, gateways to their friends
Yeah.
that will have similar needs at some point in the future. Um, you can offer discounts on future services, or discounts to their friends, whatever you need. But those are very valuable leads, because they already start out trusting you. They already start out wanting to like you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I think along with that too, when we're talking about repeat business, and your ability to automate it, you actually will have an ability to upsell clients using automation. And so
Yep.
you can build in any of these platforms, you can build in logic that based on what they've purchased or the nature of the purchase, that they would be great candidates for either an ongoing subscription to your home services or well, you liked our window cleaning. How about our gutter cleaning, and they would again, that's much easier business to win than a fresh set of eyes. So those are, it's just it's a automation that can be built just like any of these others we've described. And you, as the operator, don't have to keep a calendar to remember to call or remember all these things. That this can all be repeated and
Yeah.
systemized.
I'll give you an example, and it doesn't really apply, but it does. I do work for a spa, uh, legitimate spa. I need to qualify the disclaimer because you know where that conversation goes.
Sure.
And they do massages, and their clientele is about 70% women, which is not uncommon. And what we do is, if I notice your wife is coming in every 4 weeks for a massage, after 2 weeks, I'm sending her a coupon saying, if you come in next week, we'll give you 30% off. Because what we're trying to do is increase frequency, and it's all automated. Your wife hasn't booked. Okay, let's get her off a coupon. Let's just do it. And once the system's in place, it's a breeze. And when they went
Yeah.
to this 4 years ago, they increased their business, the repeat business, and increased their frequency by 40%, if you can believe that.
Wow.
All done, all automated. They're well known, they're high end, you know.
Yeah.
Ladies pay money for massages. I will tell you that every day. Oh,
Yeah. If my wife's any judge of that, then you are 100% correct.
yes, I am. And by the way, I'm a massage user myself. So there you go. So we've talked a lot about around automation processes. What are things just small businesses do, and what else do you get involved in with them?
Yeah. So we do work with so we have chat bots. So beyond
Yeah.
automation, and this is a form of automation, but it's AI powered automation.
Hmm.
We occasionally get inquiries in off hours, like when we're not at our desk, evenings,
Yeah.
weekends, whatever it may be, and those are good leads too. Now, um, our typical message is, an invite to book a time, but when it's off hours, we'll say we turn on our chat bot. Now, opinions vary, but I don't think that everybody has fully experienced how good the bots are getting. And the bad experiences they may have had in the past with the old learning language models, where it was just so mechanical
Yeah.
and so obvious. It's like today, it's quite a bit different, and in coming months, it's going to be even better. You're going to have like
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld or Jay Leno, like engaging, levels of engagement. Just people just are so excited to chat with you, because you've got a hilarious spot or very
Yeah.
dynamic possibility. Now, I'd say our current chat bots are pretty indistinguishable from our human responders on this, and they can go ahead and they can book appointments, they can send payment links to
Yeah.
actually close the sale and answer a whole suite of questions. Everything that we've loaded a whole wiki of information about our business that
Mhm.
the chatbot can answer.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and then we also do. So I mentioned SEO, which there are SEO engines and platforms that have AI embedded, that they analyze keywords, they create
No
keyword embedded.
question.
Yeah, so it's very important. We generate content for social media campaigns and landing page design. And I'll also say that AI is a big part of that work. It accelerates
Yeah.
things. It incorporates very sophisticated instructions, and
Yeah.
it does require, all of these require some human training, some human intervention and monitoring, but they are able to really extend our reach and
Mhm.
accelerate everything that we're able to do.
Yeah.
Just trying to think of,
Let's
go ahead.
let's talk landing page design for a minute,
Yeah, sure.
just because I want to go there, and that's an
Yeah,
interesting topic for me.
yeah.
Um, One of the things small businesses do on landing pages, and we've all seen real good ones, and we've
Mhm.
all seen real bad ones.
Right.
They give the potential buyer or customer too many choices. Don't do that, people.
Yeah.
I'm actually a big fan of removing the navigation off my landing pages at the top. I don't want people, I want them to stay on that page and click on what I want them to do, not to go away. Number one. I will even go so far, depending on the cost of the product, of removing branding on that page, depending on what the product cost is. If the
Mhm.
cost is a $5,000 product, no, you can't get away with that. But the point I'm making is make them simple, because your objective on a landing page is to get somebody to take one action, and don't give them 10 actions, right?
Yeah. No, that is great advice. And your landing page is you've already somebody has indicated some interest. They saw what was being offered on this page, clicked on it, and they're here. So now why would you throw in another distraction, another branch
Yep.
to go down? So anytime you can do that, that is really helpful for closing. I think a lot of businesses should think through the flows through the site. So on that point, landing page or
Mhm.
not, think about logical steps that somebody would take through your site.
Yes.
So like, if it's a big investment, do you have, you know, terms and conditions that are easy to find, and do those
Yes.
terms and conditions navigate back to somewhere where they can buy, that
Yes.
these are these are definitely other considerations because you can use Google Analytics to help find those, or you can include testing, as part of the site. See where people are going and where they drop off your site, where they close the tab,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and
Yep.
fix
And
that touch point.
the other thing is, while we're talking about that, your wife's a photographer.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
I'm gonna start this conversation off by saying photographers and artists are exempt to what I'm gonna say. And that is, don't make your websites too pretty.
Right.
Photographers and artists need to, because
Yeah.
that's their business. But I'm sorry, if you're a brick and mortar store and you're selling plumbing services, what do I want as a customer? I want on that site, I want to figure out how to contact you. I want to figure out your pricing. I want to figure out how to book with you. You need some images, but you don't need, I hate to tell you, high res images. You don't need. Think about functionality that leads to conversions, which leads to leads, which leads to sales, more than the site being pretty. The reason I say, if you're a photographer and artist, is you have to make the site different. And that's the reality of it.
Right. Well, and that reminds me of a piece of advice I give to our photography clients is, for a number of reasons, it may be tempting. They're very aesthetically minded, and
Mhm.
I've seen websites they look gorgeous. They load, and there's a video that streams in the background with some text
Oh
overlay.
God.
And,
God.
and I say, you're a photographer, you photograph still images, for instance, and why would you distract from what you're offering by, showing a video,
Yeah.
not they're envisioning themselves as maybe in a movie, you want to, there's many other technical reasons not to do that, but don't provide distractions on your site just because it's beautiful.
Just because it's beautiful. And because everybody else did. And the other thing
Right.
I'm going to tell people, even photographers, is please don't put a slider at the top of your page. It's a waste of time. It's a
Yeah.
waste of space. And it has no SEO value whatsoever. So don't do it. I know, well, my friend did it. That's nice. Let your friend do it. Don't you do it. That's my first thing. And speaking of websites, because I'm kind of on this crusade lately, if you're a small business, don't try and run your service-based business off Instagram or Facebook without a website.
Yeah.
If you remember last November, there was an Instagram outage that went on for 24 hours.
I do remember.
I had a guy who became a client who lost $40,000 in one day because he couldn't do sales and he had a service-based business.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is if you're going to do social, if you're going to do ads, if you're going to do anything, all roads should lead back to your website. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree 100%. It's your storefront in many cases that used to be the standard that you had a physical storefront, but
Yep.
bare minimum now is a digital storefront. If there's a lot of reasons not to focus on a social media platform. The user rate on those platforms has gone down tremendously over the past decade. And so a lot of people don't have Facebook and Instagram accounts, or but if you invest too much in one platform, then you're segmenting your potential audience in thirds. It
Yeah,
really it should support your website, not it cannot replace it.
I agree with you. And it's really interesting while you're there, and I know I'm touting my own horn at this is you're a small business owner and you decide to go a non-SaaS platform. So if you don't go Squarespace or Shopify,
Mhm.
a lot of small businesses dive into the WordPress space. Get that it's inexpensive. Even to get a dev can be not expensive. The one thing I'll tell small businesses is you better have a plan for backups and security if you're going to do web stuff, because believe it or not, 90% of websites that get compromised, and I see it all the time, are small business websites because then they use those to attack large businesses. And those small business websites actually affect your business reputation. So be really careful of that as well.
Interesting. Yeah. And that is not my realm. And Rob,
No,
I
I know.
think we talked about maybe having a follow-up conversation about this.
Sure.
And
Of course,
but
anytime.
very fascinating stuff. And you can't be too careful with
No.
security and
Yeah.
reputation.
So there's a lot here. And I think and we're not trying to scare you. We're just trying to kind of help people and say,
Yeah.
hey, these are the things you need to do. And we haven't even talked about the offsite stuff. So, I was on the phone with my insurance agent the other day talking about business insurance and looking at stuff. I mean, you got to think of all that stuff too. And that's a bit of out of realm of what we're talking about. But don't what I'm saying is, as a business owner or service-based business, don't run your business like a hobby. Think about in the States, should you set it up as an LLC? In Canada, we don't have LLCs, so you end up incorporating. Do it because you need to protect your liability. You need to, and I know it's out of the realm, but it's still worth mentioning, right? So,
Yeah. And as a service-based business, you are good at a technical skill. You don't have to be great at marketing. You can lean on people, agencies and other
yeah,
experts that you find that can fill in those gaps. Don't ever feel like it's a mountain of knowledge that you have to climb. It's this is accessible through vendors, various softwares. Even
mhm,
if you're taking a long dialogue with Chat GPT to get through it,
yeah,
this is accessible to all businesses.
yeah. And I know the world is tough right now. We know what's going on in Canada. We
Yeah.
just went through an election. We know what's going on in the US with tariffs.
Yes. Yes.
And without getting into all the political stuff, honestly, now's the time to build that business. Usually, when economics are tough, is the best time to build this type of business, not
Yeah.
when everything's going great. And people don't realize that.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the time to metaphorically sharpen the sword and sharpen
Yeah,
your tools so you are ready and efficient for when the economy's in a better state.
yeah, no question. Hey, Reed, what what an action-packed show. If anybody doesn't get something out of this, I think they got a bit of a problem. But that's
No,
just my opinion. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, talk to your agency, see about getting you involved, how's the best way?
best way is to go to our website at marketsurge.io, and you can email me anytime at reed@marketsurge.io. Either of those are great ways to get in touch and learn more. But again, really nice to be on with you, Rob. You have such a great audience, and I love the content you put out.
Yeah, thanks so much. And we're going to talk again. I know I just see
Yeah,
this one of being many conversations. And you have an
definitely.
amazing day, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Reed for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.